For our multivariate presentation, we have decided to look at the 2005 police survey dataset to analyze the relationship between equality rights and assimilation. For our research question, we want to know if looking at police and legal professionals across Canada, does one's opinion of equality rights in Canada affect their opinion on the assimilation of immigrants into Canadian culture? In previous studies we looked at, we found that the two variables were related. According to a 2006 study by Michael Verkuden and Ali Aslan Yildiz, they found that those who endorsed minority rights were likely to support the concepts of majority rule, in-group identification, and cultural diversity. In other words, someone who supports equality rights would likely not be in support for assimilation. In the process of conducting this study, we want to control for gender. We want to observe if opinion of equality rights has a different effect on support for assimilation for men and women in the law enforcement profession. A study on ethnic tolerance by Bruno Bettelheim and Morris Janowitz outlined a main hypothesis expressing that if an individual has suffered deprivations in the past, they are more likely to be hostile towards minorities.
Using our key independent variable, belief that equality rights have gone too far in Canada, we hypothesize that those who believe equality rights have gone too far will be more supportive of assimilation. We are also controlling for gender because we believe that females will be more supportive of equality rights and therefore less supportive of assimilation. The rationale for our hypothesis is as follows. Police and legal professionals are put in daily situations where their opinions on minorities are influenced by work-related experiences. We assume that those who believe that Canada has gone too far in pushing equality rights are less tolerant of minorities and minority culture. Therefore, they will be more supportive of immigrants assimilating into Canadian culture. We believe that the results will be different for male and female legal professionals because women have faced more discrimination in the law enforcement workplace. We believe that this will therefore make them more sympathetic to minority rights and, by extension, make them less likely to support assimilation. This is contrary to our literature, which suggests that women, as parties who have been discriminated against in the past, would be less supportive of minority groups.
We have chosen 3 predictors for police professionals' support of assimilation. Our key independent variable is the belief that equality rights have gone too far in Canada. We believe that this will have a positive influence on support for assimilation. For our second independent variable, we think the belief that minority rights should be protected will have a negative influence on support for assimilation. We want to control for the influence on the key independent variable because they are similar in concept but measure in opposite directions. We also believe that the key independent variable will provide us with more interesting findings and a broader horizon for future research. Lastly, we will be controlling for gender. We believe that females will be less supportive of assimilation, which indicates a negative relationship. For our dependent variable, we created an index on support for the assimilation of immigrants into Canadian culture. We used 3 indicators from the Web Police dataset, and the alpha score of 0.7559 showed that they were all highly related to each other. For our key independent variable and our second independent variable, we have declared don't know as the missing value. So to recap, our key independent variable is that belief that equality rights have gone too far in Canada, which we recoded into equality. Our second independent variable was belief that minority rights should be protected, which was recoded into minority. For our third independent variable, which was gender, we have used the dummy variable model and recoded female into 1 and male into 0.
These are our results for the initial regression. All of our hypotheses were supported. Those who thought equality rights had gone too far in Canada also supported assimilation in Canada, whereas those who believed minority rights should be protected and females had a negative relationship with support for assimilation. The F probability scores are all below 0.05, which shows us that the relationships are statistically significant. The R-squared value of 0.26629 indicates a fairly strong relationship between the variables. Our initial regression supports our hypothesis in regards to our key independent variable. As you can see, those who believed equality rights had gone too far in Canada supported the assimilation of immigrants into Canadian culture. For every 1 unit increase in the equality variable, there is a 0.334 increase in support for assimilation. The results for the gender variable are also related to our hypothesis. For females, support for assimilation decreases 0.21 units. We want to see if being female has an effect on the other independent variables, and if the effects are different for males. We will control for gender in the next regression.
The first model shows the results of how opinion on equality rights affects support for assimilation for men, and the second model shows the same thing for women. Upon conducting the models, we found that there are slight differences in the relationships between the two models. The negative relationship between equality rights and support for assimilation is stronger for women than it is for men. As shown by the B-value for women, 34% of the variation in support for assimilation is caused by opinion on equality rights. For men, 33% of the variation is caused by equality rights. Because the difference in results between men and women are so small, these numbers indicate replication.
The results of the regression models allow us to conclude that the more one agrees that equality rights have gone too far, the more likely they will agree with assimilation. This supports our initial hypothesis, as over 1/3 of the variation in support for assimilation is explained by a key independent variable. This also corresponds with Verkuyden and Yildiz' study. The results for the regression models for our control variable show replication. Between men and women, there is not a significant difference in support for assimilation caused by equality rights. This, therefore, does not support our hypothesis, as we believe there would be significant differences due to our belief that professional females would take a sympathetic stance towards assimilation.
Based on this study, we may assume that as equality rights increase, support for cultural diversity within professional groups will increase as well. Future studies would benefit from this information by looking into the effects of cultural diversity on Canadian workplaces. The next step would be to assess the attitudes of different professional groups towards support for equality rights in Canada and assimilation of immigrants. We may also apply our hypothesis to a general population instead of a specific workforce to see whether it is proven or disproven. The following slides are syntax for our research. Thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope you found it informative and interesting.